Well, hello everyone. Ah, yes, it is that time again. And why, hey Jan, and hey Jack, and Kurt. Always a pleasure. And yeah, it is Monday on uh, Life's a Fair, so it's Fair Life with Andrew McKee. And I am always, as always, am Andrew. Wow, okay. It, oh, hello, and good evening, Janine. So, yes, and Damaris, um, and howdy to you. So, yeah, it has been another week and some interesting stuff going on, definitely. I'm myself am preparing for my next fair, the Louisiana Ren Fair, which I'll be heading off to in a couple of weeks. So, nice to have a little break in between fairs now and then. Next year, I may not get as much of a break, so we'll see. And Nancy, hey. And Jan, oh, you're getting a new computer? Well, we need to definitely talk about that, Jan, because yeah, a lot of good options going on right now. I know Apple just announced their new MacBook Pros and everything, so some really cool processors that they have going on, so that's always fun. But yeah, it has been an interesting week. Now, for my prep work, I am uh, mostly trying to, well, I'm mostly trying to figure out how to get streaming working at the fair, at least on Monday night when where I'm staying. So that has been my goal. I'm still working on it, going by the assumption that I will have decent enough data through my new cell phone plan. Here's hoping. That's the plan. We will see. I've tested it a lot, and it's going to be hit or miss. It depends on where I am. There are places in Austin where I have a great signal and it's wonderful. I've tried it different times of the day, works great. There are other places in Austin I do not get great signal. So it's just going to depend. I'm optimistic, so we will see. We will see. Um, ooh, neighbors' cows, Janine. That's yeah, yeah. That's always a bit of a challenge. So always good. Good to drive carefully. Good advice. So yeah. So based on that assumption that I'll have decent signal, I've got portable lighting and travel and set up and a good travel bag for everything, and it's going well. Even got a green screen in case I need it, and I'm setting that up. Only thing I have left is a travel banner holder to yeah, to be able to hold up the green screen. And I'm probably just going to get something out of PVC, make it out of PVC and put that together. So a little project that should be fun, just for something quick and easy to try. And we'll see. I'll worry about the fine details of it later. But that is going well too. That is going well too. So it should be a lot of fun. We'll see how. Yeah, I'm still a little nervous about it. I'm not gonna lie, because it's not all the setup and everything. I think that's great. I'm just worried about having signal, and I'm not gonna know till I get there. So all of this work and prep may be for nothing. But regardless, if I have to drive somewhere and do a live show with my cell phone on my dash in my car focused on me, I'll do that and see what I can do. So worst case scenario, we'll try that, but hopefully we'll at least get something. The first Monday I'm out there might be a problem, but I will do my best. So I am trying. So yeah, I'm glad some of y'all are coming out to Louisiana Ren Fair. And Drew's really excited to get to 7 Reasons. Nice. Yes, I did remember, and I will say that was one of the easiest 7 reasons I've ever written in my life. I think I wrote it in about 2 minutes because it was really all of these things I have thought of so many times. For those of you that weren't here last week, the 7 reasons that you suggested, it wasn't my idea, was the 7 reasons to use a plastic recorder as opposed to a wooden one. And I thought I thought it was inspired. 7 reasons. So definitely latched onto that, and we are using it. So okay, awesome, cool stuff. News. Yeah, I did want to share something I noticed in the news over the last week that I found interesting. I know maybe it's just me. I like history. I know none of you other fans of Renaissance fairs like history at all. No, of course not. But I thought I would share this with you anyway. There's a good article about an archaeological site in Israel, the Yavni site. It's been having a lot of great archaeological finds over the last couple of decades, and really good stuff. And they just recently discovered a wine factory there, which is kind of interesting because Gaza and Ashkelon wine were, well, very famous in the Mediterranean in ancient times. And even wine from that area was popular all the way into medieval times. So, they knew that the wine came from those ports, Gaza and Ashkelon, but they didn't know where the main production center was, where it was actually made. And they think they found it at this site. Around 1,500 years ago, judging from the size of it, it was possibly the largest wine factory in the world, which that's quite a statement. So pretty cool. It looks like it was abandoned around the 12th century, somewhere in there. There were some historical finds that related to the Crusades, so maybe that played a part in abandoning the site. Who knows? Either way, it's an interesting find, and I'm not much of a wine drinker or wine aficionado or historian with wine, to be honest. In fact, I'll just be honest. I don't really like wine. The taste has never been my favorite. But the history is fascinating, and that people didn't really drink water much back then. This was a way to make sure the water didn't go bad and to keep it safe and make it a little more tasty back then. So they really liked it. And yeah, I mean, they found, there were other winemaking sites there in the area that go back 2,300 years, going back to the Persian Empire time. So really, it sounds like they were making wine there for a few thousand years probably. So a lot of good history there, and I found that really interesting. So if you want to take a look, you can look for, just do a search for wine at Yavne, Yavne, that's it, site in Israel, or Wine Factory Israel, and you'll find some information about it if you want to read more about it. But it's interesting. Taylor, you like drinking wine, but usually a sweet wine. I've always had trouble with that, because what they call sweet wines, I think that's one of the biggest misnomers in the alcohol industry, because it's not sweet, it's less sour. That's how I've always viewed it. I mean, I think the closest thing in wine that I've come to, not having trouble with, because I hate sour tastes, and wine usually has a pretty serious sour aspect to it to me. I've always been sensitive to sour. But a Riesling, it's not as sour, so I can handle it. That's kind of what I've endured. But yeah, and port. Yeah, Drew, I see what you mean. Port, certainly. I've never really found port to be really sweet, but I will say it's not that sour. So I'll give it that. Port is on my short list of alcoholic beverages that I'm okay with. I especially like it has a very wooden type taste. Kind of like you're putting your mouth on a wooden recorder. No segue intended for that. No, not at all. But yeah. And Nancy, yeah, I really don't drink either. I understand. I'm a bit of a hypocrite. I sing all the time about, going to the pub and drinking alcoholic beverages, and I I never even had my first drink till, oh my gosh, till I was in my 30s. So that's when I first had alcohol as a beverage. So I developed my palate very late, and because of that, it was very, um, yeah, not good, not good. I believe you, Janine, non-drinking microbiologist. Gosh, that sounds like a good song. Non-drinking microbiologist, or a good SNL skit. Um, yeah, that just, yeah, yeah, I believe it. Oh man, but yeah, that is interesting. Oh, but yeah, I do find the history of wine. I mean, I understand the whole beer concept of being able to store drink and have it be like drink food, and for travel and everything makes a lot of sense. I get that, and keeping over time, I get that too. Certainly, there's a good reason to have it over time. Now, I don't know. It's taste wise. It was always been so foreign to me. It reminded me of smells I would get in see in Chem Lab class in college. Uh, yeah. And I know people who really love. Most of my friends are really huge alcohol drinkers. They love it so much. Alacia being one, and Whitney being another. I don't want to say snobs, but they're really well versed in alcoholic beverages. So yeah, I always feel like a novice compared to them. Usually, if I have a question, that's who I ask about it. It definitely does help. And I'm sorry you miss your alcohol, Jack. That's never easy. It is. It is a tough road when you have to give up something. You never know how much you value something till you have to give it up. It's the truth. It is. So true. And yes, Janine, at least you can make bread. That is always good. And yeah, the solid form of beer. So yes, that's what you do with bread. Yeah, no problem. But yeah, anyway, if you're interested, I thought it was really an interesting article, and there are several that are referencing the published work from the archaeologists. So you can find it on several different sites. But check it out. Good stuff. Really good stuff. I think, yeah, actually, let me see if I can go ahead and post the link, one of the links I found on it. Here you go. Here's a good one. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Ars Technica. There you go. So if you're interested, now you have a link. I try to provide that on news articles I talk about, just so you can have at least a starting point. That's the basic link. I mean, there are some stories that have a lot more information than that, but that'll give you the highlights. And yeah, always interesting. Okay, well, let's go ahead and jump into the fairs we have coming up this weekend, and we have lost a few. Several of the fairs have ended their runs for the year, so we are down to, like, what is it, 12, I think? Yeah, I think something like 12 fairs now. Yeah, you can see they're spread out a lot more too, all over the place. Earlier, the last few months, we've had more concentrations in certain areas of the country, but now it's kind of spread out a bit, which I like. I think that's generally how the public likes it, because if they're all too close together, which one do you go to? And I kind of like having that. So let's take a look here. Let's see. I guess we'll go ahead and start in the upper right where I normally start, with the King Richard's Fair in Carver, Massachusetts. And of course, the Connecticut Ren Fair ended, as did the Kansas City Renaissance Festival. So they are done for the year, unfortunately, but we will see them next year. Now, going a little southwest, then we go to the Pennsylvania Renaissance Fair in Manheim, Pennsylvania, and the Maryland Renaissance Festival in Annapolis, Maryland. So, oh, okay. And Taylor went to Maryland on Saturday. Okay, and rain, but it was still a lot of fun. Great to hear. Great to hear. That is, Maryland is a good-sized fair. It's been out for a while, and has a very good reputation. Actually, I mean, I don't think I'm out of line to say one of the better reputations on the fair circuit. definitely. From the performers, workers' perspective. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, y'all, but that's my understanding. Very good rep. Then you go a little more south and you go to the continuation of the Carolina Renaissance Festival in Huntersville, North Carolina. Um, and then, of course, the Ohio Renaissance Festival in Waynesville, Ohio. Now, a new one started up. This one's interesting in Lowell, Michigan, the Viking Warrior Fest. Now, I'm not sure if we had a Viking fest. No, I think we did have one Viking festival earlier, but this one makes a lot of sense because now it's just starting to get cooler, and it feels like Viking weather, doesn't it? All of the outfits that you would normally wear for a Viking, all the fur and everything. Yeah, I think this is the right weather for it. So good timing on that, I think. Then we go way south to the Alabama Renaissance Fair in Florence, Alabama. That's a fun fair. It's small, kind of small for a fair, but it's been around for a long time, and several decades, and it's kind of interesting. Yeah, really a fun place. Then you go over to Missouri, and we have the St. Louis Renaissance Fair is still going on in St. Louis, Wentzville, Missouri specifically, and a new addition, the Central Missouri Renaissance Festival in Kingdom City, Missouri. So it will be interesting. It will be interesting to see how those compete with each other. I'm sure that that the Central Missouri Renaissance Festival was around before the St. Louis Fair switched to the fall, and that's probably why they're competing a little bit. I don't know. I'll be interested to find out and inquire if those cause a problem with each other. Then, of course, the big one down south, the Texas Renaissance Festival in Todd Mission, Texas, just northwest of Houston. Always a fun one. And then all the way to the west in California, the Northern California Renaissance Fair in Hollister, California is still going on, and bless them always. So, yeah, Janine, I know what you're asking. Yeah, what states don't have Renaissance fairs? Off the top of my head, I'm not 100% sure on that. I know in the past Hawaii did have one, but I'm not sure if they do currently. Oh, and good. Yes, Jack, yes. The Joaquim the Magician at TRF near the front gate till noon, and near the French food booths after 2. Excellent. Excellent. If you do go to the Texas Renaissance Festival, definitely take a look and, enjoy the show, because I know it's a good one. Okay. So, yeah. Very light fair list this week. Let's see. Oh, just 11. Just 11 fairs. So really a low point as far as numbers go, but that's okay. We're going to start seeing more of that too, because over the next few weekends, a few other fairs are going to finish up their run. And we'll get a few more who are added, but generally October, November is when some of the fairs that started in the late summer, early fall, that's when they end, and you'll get a few new ones, but they don't tend to last long, and then we get into early December and there's very little going on, so that will be interesting. Yeah, I'm actually curious. There's probably going to be a weekend where I have nothing. I'm curious about that. I hadn't really thought of it, but there's probably a weekend like late December or something like that where there is not a fair. I'm going to see. That is I'm really curious. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. Never boring. March? Well, no, I mean, March and April are Sherwood, they're definitely, and February and March are Arizona, so I know there's always fairs in March. But yeah, we'll see. We shall see. Okay, well, I guess I should jump into 7 Reasons, since Jack was so interested in that, and he's right, it was totally 100% his fault, but everybody joined in. You egged him on, be honest. You did. It was not just him at the end. So yeah, let's jump over to 7 Reasons, and we have... And Damaris, you're right, I would be interested in seeing a fair start up during that downtime too. I mean, some have tried. I mean, you get some Dickens fairs in in December. But generally, the week around Christmas, it just doesn't make much sense. I mean, there's too many things going on. People are, yeah, I kind of see the rationale for a couple of weeks there at least of not doing anything. I just don't see it working out. It's not quite like Disney World where being open over Christmas makes sense, and you just have a lot of people who are interested in going. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there would be some, but I just don't see it being worth it. And to be blunt, performers and merchants, they need downtime. I mean, that winter break is so wonderful. I mean, they need time for merchants. They need to, some of them need to work on their stock to get their numbers up to make those different items, and that's a great time to really do it, to work on that. Yeah, it is important. It is important. It's been a little while since I've worked most of the year at fairs and conventions. I've kind of done a on again, off again, on again, off again thing for a while. I'm starting to jump back into that, and when I do, I'm going to enjoy that December break. When I was with the Brobdingnagian Bards, I really enjoyed it because Mark, for every Christmas, he would go and visit his mom in Italy. And he'd fly out in the middle of December and not come back till middle of January. So I had a month of required break, even if I didn't want it. I mean, I know there were times we could have got a couple of New Year's Eve gigs or something, but no, I just had a month off, and it was really nice. And I learned the value of that. Yeah, you're right, Nancy. And everybody needs a chance to recharge. And Kathy, yeah, they would compete with the holidays. You're right. Time to be with families, Kurt, totally. And yeah, you need downtime after TRF. It can be tough. So definitely. So anyway, 7 reasons. And the 7 reasons to use a plastic recorder. Oh yeah, a plastic recorder versus a wooden recorder. Oh, come on. You knew I was going to have props. Come on. You knew it, right? So, yes. I mean, you have the sound difference, of course. Actually, God, that's really close, right? I don't really hear much difference. I can hear a slight difference, but it is a very, very small difference. Yeah. I mean, this is a very good plastic recorder, but yes. Very nice, very cool. So, yes. Number 7. Let's go with number 7. Humidity. Okay, now, one of the enemies of wood, and you're right, Jack, plastic does tend to get a little shrill in the upper register, unless you have a very good plastic recorder. That's what the expensive plastic recorders, when I say expensive, I mean expensive for plastic. They help you with that. But the wooden ones, the humidity is deadly. I mean, you're already throwing spit throughout, and the humidity is very high. If you have humidity in the air too, even when you're not playing it, it's like you're playing it the whole time. So all day long, it's horrible outside. And what you're ideally supposed to do is you play it for an hour or two, and then you take it apart and clean it thoroughly. Wipe it the inside as much as you can and try to get that moisture out. But if you're playing all day at a fair for 8-10 hours or whatever, that's not very realistic. It would be a huge challenge, and that's what I ran into. So the humidity, very bad. With this, it's not a problem. Humidity doesn't really affect it. I mean, all you're going to do is occasionally get some spit buildup in there, but that takes a while to happen. So it's not bad. And you're right, oil will definitely help with that, but it's not an end-all, be-all. And one of the problems with oil is it is going to change the sound a little bit too. So, yeah, it is that is tough. Oil, only so much, only so much. There are some techniques you can do to try to protect a wooden recorder, but it's only, my experience is it helps. It doesn't solve the problem. That's my take. Okay, number 6, tuning. Now, here's an interesting thing. Temperature changes the tuning of an instrument, a wooden instrument. It's going to change it. You're going to, if it's really cold, if it's really hot, the tuning is going to be a little different. And that's going to be a problem. On plastic, temperature doesn't really affect it. I mean, I think a little, but very, very little. So that is kind of nice. Definitely a big difference. A very, very nice difference. And number 5, cleaning. Oh my gosh. Yes. With this, you get a rag and you open it up and you, really try to clean the inside as much as you can with a stick and a rag. With this, you get a little pan of soapy water and let it set there. That's it. That is it. Dishwasher is another way. I've mostly avoided that because, because I always never trusted the dishwasher. I always thought if it ever falls down and hits the heating element, it is going to melt like crazy, and I was always afraid of that. So I always would just use hot water and with dish soap in there and let it soak for overnight, and that always did the trick for me. Then washing it out thoroughly, letting it dry. But yeah, if you had a lot of recorders, like for an elementary school class, dishwasher is definitely the way to go. So yeah, definitely. Now, as far as cleaning as well, I mean, well, okay, cleaning. Yeah, I once had I once had a girl just see me playing the recorder, say, "Oh, that's really cool. How is that? Is it really hard to play?" I was like, "No." She took it out of my hands and decided to show off her lack of a gag reflex with my recorder and stick it down her throat. Yes. Luckily, it was a plastic recorder, and I will tell you, the amount of cleaning I did on that's one of the few times I did use a dishwasher, as well as other things, to try to clean that. Yeah. Yeah, right? That's something. But yeah, so if it had been a wooden recorder, I don't know if I ever would have been comfortable ever playing that again. I'm not gonna lie. Not gonna lie. Yeah. So yeah, I definitely like the cleaning aspect. I think you can always clean it a little better than wood. Let's just be honest on that. So yes. And okay, number 4, the consistency. Now, the consistency is great because, like I said, where temperature can change the tuning a little bit, time will change it a little bit. Also, if you ever get a second instrument, like having a second plastic recorder that is if you get the same type, same manufacturer, everything, it's probably not going to be the exact same as the one you're playing. I mean, there'll be notes that'll be a little off in a different way. Other notes that you got used to playing that were a little off that you had to correct with how you played it, they might be fine. I mean, it's hard to get a level of consistency with wooden recorders. Some of the very expensive ones, they get close, but even then, it's not perfect. So, but with the plastic ones, generally, if it's the same recorder, if you have trouble playing a certain high note on one, you're probably going to have trouble playing that high note on another that's the same. If it's easy to play, it'll be easy to play on the other. I mean, it's consistent, and that is very handy, especially if you change recorders or switch up down the road. It's very nice. Number 3, cost. Oh yeah, cost. Let's be honest. Recorders, wooden instruments can be expensive. This, how much expensive was this? This one was not an insanely expensive wooden recorder at the time. I want to say it was somewhere around. Uh, I I think it was somewhere around $100, something like that, 120, somewhere in that neighborhood. No, actually, well, I don't think it was that much. I think it was like 80. I think it was 80. I got a good deal on it, and that's for a mid-range wooden recorder, nothing too fancy. I had a really nice recorder that was $150 that I took out to Faire back in the day, and it just died on me, and I had to finally, it I had to give it up. It was just, yeah, yeah, it was a shame. But so I started going down a step, and but even then, I got that, and then I decided let's just go plastic. Um, yeah, you're right. The Pearwood Honers, those are some of the really cheap ones. Honer, Gill, they make some really inexpensive recorders that aren't too bad. But once again, the consistency is pretty bad. Those inexpensive Honers, there are notes that are not going to be perfectly in tune, and you might get one that is actually very good quality by luck, and another one that is not very good in tune, and that can be rough. Now, this one is one of the best plastic sopranos you can buy. It's a Yamaha, and it is around $40, $42. Same with this. These are just two different types of the same recorder. This one has a corn-based plastic, and this one has just regular oil-based plastic. So yeah, but otherwise they're the same design and everything. So yes, it is like $42. Not too bad. It's their high-end model. I'm trying to remember what the model number is. Yeah, I mean it's their high-end model. Okay, you're gonna make me look it up, aren't you? Okay, fine, fine. Gonna do that, aren't you? You're gonna make me look it up. Gonna make me look it up. Wow. Okay, here we go. So let's see. No. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's the standard YRS 314B. I think. Or is it the 312B? Well, one of those. But yeah, it's their high-end model. So, and Yamaha's high-end model is I used to use a Xenon Stansby Jr., which I was really happy with. That I thought was a really good one. I thought for solo work, in some ways, especially with some of the high notes, it was very handy to play. You got a little more in that third octave. Yeah, I think you got a little more freedom with that. But some of the other notes, not quite as. This is how I'll put it. I think that was a good virtuoso recorder. This was a good playing with a group recorder because the notes were very steady throughout and consistent, and there are definitely some advantages to some of the notes playing with this one. And so I switched from the Xenon when it got harder to find anyway, and I got one of these. So yeah, and as far as the large ones, the ones, this is a tenor, and you were saying that the tenor, yeah, they're over $100 even for the plastic. But if you're going for a wooden one, it is, yeah, I mean, we're talking several $100s. I mean, 500 plus just to get that. And so plastic, definitely better, and it does have some actual keys that you push down to do it. So a little more traditional in that respect. And yeah, it also has a nice mellow sound, which I always like. Have no idea why that tune popped in my head, but it did. So, yes. But yeah, that's... Yeah, alto is interesting, but the notes you play are different because the soprano and the tenor this is a G. This is a C. So this is a C on a soprano and a tenor. On a I guess on an alto it would be an F, and so you have to wrap your head around that. I can do it, but it takes me a second. So I kind of just got used to the ones that I didn't even have to think about. I could go lower, go high, and not stress over it. But I mean, that's true with a lot of instruments, so it really shouldn't be that much of a factor. But you always get used to certain things and go with it just because of situation or ease. But yeah, and I understand the alto is a nice one. It definitely it's a nice middle range where it still gets pretty high, but it hits some of those low notes that the soprano just can't hit. So unless you're playing some Telemon, you're probably okay with the alto. Okay, so number two, backup instruments. Thanks to cost, usually if you have a wooden recorder, you're spending a good amount of money, $100. I mean, unless you're getting a real cheap one, $100, $200, $500 for one. What happens if there's a problem? What happens if it breaks? All of a sudden, you can't play whatever arrangement or tunes or whatever you were playing with. If you're a solo musician like moi now, that's a big problem. That's a big problem. And with plastic, hey, I've always got my backup here in case there's ever a problem here. With the random girl grabbing my recorder and sticking it down her throat. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, it's nice to have some options, and this takes care of that. So really, really handy. So that backup aspect is cool. And the number one reason to use a plastic recorder, man, it's already 7:38. I've gone so late because I'm talking about recorders. I know. And luckily it's not my fault. I can blame Jack. It's all his fault, not mine at all. So number one is the innovation of design. Now, one thing I've noticed over the last 20 years is that if there's a huge innovation in recorder design, something somebody tries, a company or an individual even tries and markets, it's most likely at least partially plastic, because it is, plastic is cheaper to work with, easier to use, and it makes a lot more sense. If it catches on and people like it, then you can look at doing the wooden one as well, and offering some more options. But yeah, I think that it's really, you can get some really interesting wooden or plastic recorders now that don't come in wood at the moment, or are just starting to. And so it's kind of nice to see. You're seeing a lot of changes in some of the plastic recorders. So yes. Yeah, and Janine, you're right. You can trade them out and do that. I've thought about that, and at this point, I know a lot more about recorders than when I first started doing fairs. I could probably come up with a system that with wooden recorders would at least mostly work. Would it be perfect? No, but I think it would get me most of the way there, which is huge, which is definitely huge. So I don't know. I think that it would, I could go that route, but I'm so used to the plastic ones now, and I can play them very easily and do some, just do that, and it works. I mean, it's kind of like, if it's not broken, don't fix it. So that's kind of where I've gone with that. But you're not wrong. I think at this point, I probably could go that route. And it is tempting because it is a little more authentic. But even so, it also is a lot more expensive. I would have to shell out, probably at least $500, $750 just to start and have something that would work. I would be going really nuts with it, trying to make it work. And even that's the bare minimum to do it. And that's not including my tenor. That would just be soprano recorders. So yeah, it's tough. And right now, I'd rather work on CDs and music and get that out. But to be fair, I do have some wooden recorders, and when I'm recording some stuff, I will use them on recordings, depending on what I'm recording. I like sometimes to have that different sound. So it is, even though I think the sound is a lot less distinctive than it used to be. They've come a long way with plastic recorder design. Oh, thanks, Janine. That's awesome. That is really cool that you're doing that. Yeah, yeah. Hey, if I inspire anyone to play a recorder more than they would have, my mission in life is done. That's always the goal, because I do love the recorder. I think it has a very unfair reputation of being a children's instrument, and yeah, I just don't think that's right or fair. It's so much more than that. It is a real traditional, full-fledged instrument, and whose main main deficiency is that it doesn't do dynamics very well. That's really it. It doesn't get really soft and really loud on notes. It was really geared for medieval and Baroque music, where the arrangement said how lively the music was or how morose the music was. Where when you get past that time period, sometimes the volume and the dynamics would affect how lively or how morose the music was. And that's sort of the main deficiency with the recorder. Otherwise, I think it stacks up great with other instruments, and every instrument has their deficiency. Let's just be honest on that. Nothing's perfect. So yeah. And Damaris, you're right. I mean, it is interesting. There aren't many people who do treat it as an actual instrument. Most people treat it as a children's instrument, an intro instrument. Yeah, it's kind of a shame. I mean, I think a harmonica has a lot more respect than the recorder by far. It's strange. So yeah, it is a lot of fun playing, and definitely recommend anybody who's interested, check it out, because it's not expensive to start. I said that mine was, a high-end one is like $42 if you're not even looking for sales. So something to check out. So arpeggios are your friend. Well, yeah, I mean, wind instruments generally aren't great for playing chords, unless you're playing, unless you're playing in a trio or a quartet, and that's a great time. And a lot of recorder music, traditional recorder music, is written for that, to play in a quartet. Renaissance and Baroque recorder, that's normally how they did it. They had a couple of sopranos, an alto and a tenor, or soprano, alto, tenor, and bass, and they all played together. And they played different parts, and they played those, as you say, chords kind of thing, and it was really good. So yeah, definitely something to check out. Early on, I treated it as my travel saxophone. I mean, I played saxophone as a kid in a high school band and everything, and the fingerings are pretty much the same. So I just kind of I'd played it in high school, but I took it as let's just try this out, and I had a lot of fun with it. And then, there's a good. Well, I mean, it just started. I started figuring out music by ear on it and transcribing it from working on that, and then I got more into it. And with that, yeah, college, I really embraced the recorder a lot more. And then when I started playing Renaissance fairs, well, I dove into the deep end, like you do. But it's a lot easier when your main competition are fifth graders, so it's not too hard to sound good when you start out with that. You know, I actually have a bamboo sax from, wait for it, Eric the Flute Maker of TRF fame. So yes, I'm covered on the actual traveling saxophone. But yeah, I wasn't really fond of it because it doesn't play like my old sax. You have to force, because it's so much smaller, you have to force so much more air into it. I never really enjoyed playing it. It was tough to play. And I could get used to it, but it was just weird. So it didn't feel like a travel sax, where the recorder, it's actually easier to play than a sax, and it's completely different. There's no reed, so it didn't really mess with my head as far as how to play a saxophone. It's a different instrument, but the fingerings were the same. So yeah, I actually never really liked the traveling sax approach, honestly. I tried it, but not really my thing. What can I say? But okay, well, I've gone on for a ridiculously long amount of time compared to normal. I apologize for that. Hopefully you'll forgive me. But I am talking about the recorder, and what can I say? Kind of love the instrument, if you didn't notice. So again, thanks for joining me on Faire Life on Monday night. And always fun to spend some time with you every week. So I look forward to seeing you next week, and I'll have some more news about my trip to LARF, things that are going on, and some cool news about Renaissance and medieval times for your ears. So enjoy, have a good week, and as always, have a fair life. Take care.